I confused the guy from revenue tremendously with this one day, because I asked him that question in a public presentation, and he coughed and shuffled his feet, and we met outside, and I explained to him what I was doing, which is, I'll go through with you and I'll show you exactly how that works. And he agreed that you could have a non-written, non-oral, non-electronic. Now, that is not in the rules, okay? So that's subject to their allowance. But we're now starting in moving into the realms of thinking really outside of the box. Okay, very quickly, benefits. All right, this is one of the trickiest areas, and I've touched on it in terms of David Beckham's football shirt and so on. But technically, you can't have a benefit. Practically, revenue says you can have a token of appreciation. And the issue is, how do you value that token of appreciation? And my comment to you is just be very, very careful of how you do it, because the Labrador Lifeline Trust is a classic example of getting this one wrong. I'll just touch on it if anybody wants. I've got the slide here. But effectively, the Labrador Lifeline Trust is a dog rescue charity. And what they do is they find these dogs, collect them, and people can go along and take them. The idea is that you get interviewed, the dog never becomes yours, you sort of like adopt it. They have the right to come in and check and take it away if they think you're doing it wrong. And although you pay for the privilege of doing this, they can waive that payment or modify it. The way they'd worded it and the way they'd done it, the guy from Revenue came along and said, sorry guys, this doesn't comply. It's not a donation. You can't get a dog without it. We deem it a benefit. And they fined them. Well, they fined them £14,000, which in itself was unfortunate and a rather large amount of money. But when you consider that their annual income was only £40,000 and they wanted it by next week, it killed them. It really did. And I'll show you the article. So you've got to be very careful of the limits and how it works. Is anybody here from a museum type organization that charges admission fees? Steam museums, other. Okay, the same thing applies, or a similar thing applies there. They've brought in rules that allow the entrance fee to be gift aided. You have to do it in certain ways of offering it a 10% or more. There's a donation element, who's allowed, and I confused revenue again with this one, because I said, what happens to children fees? Well, children aren't taxpayers, so you don't have to. But I said, then how do you calculate if a mother brings her child along and there's the 10% on the mother but not on the child, because the child, and they just sort of, their heads blew up. And we resolved it. But the point is, you have to think it through, because Sod's Law says if you don't, and then you get inspected, somebody will say, this doesn't apply. So be very careful with the benefits and how they work.